The other thing I wanted to get into was Luka and Kristaps Porzingis and this whole rest load management stuff. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and I'm sure you're probably sick and tired of talking about it, but it keeps coming up. For somebody like
Yeah.
Kristaps Porzingis, I think fans understand him sitting out back-to-backs, right? He had the, meniscus tear. He had that work done. He had that, the surgery over this past offseason. He came into the season a little late because he was recovering from that. So that one I think makes sense. The one that we're concerned about is Luka, and why are they doing it the way that they are? What's the point of resting a guy that's 22, especially sometimes it'll be with 2 days off, they'll give him the rest. Like, is this just the Mavs plan, or is there some kind of medical science or something behind it where there's certain days that make more sense for him to rest than others?
This is such a frustrating thing for fans, and it's frustrating also for us because we understand how complex it is. And I get it. Fans want to see Luka play on a specific night. They have tickets. It's frustrating them when he doesn't play.
Or every night. Pretty much every night.
Yeah. So I think what people have to remember at the end of the day is the Mavs are doing this to keep Luka and KP healthy for a postseason run, for the rest of the season, because in their best data that they have, their best research, their medical staff, they think this is best for him to recover and to be able to avoid getting hurt. The important thing is everybody is different. And this is, I think, what fans have a hard time accepting, because we see somebody like LeBron James, who seemingly never has to sit out a game, is able to recover super quick and not kind of have that same impact on his body. And we try to equate that to somebody like Luka, who maybe doesn't quite as recover as quickly, or maybe still is feeling the soreness from whatever a little bit longer. That doesn't mean that inherently like Luka is a worse player or is weaker or inferior in some way. It just means that his body is different and needs managed in a different way. I would much rather have the medical science we do today, to where teams are looking at guys to say, hey, do we need to sit you down? Do we need to limit back-to-backs? Do we need to limit minutes? Because then that's going to help these guys last longer in the league. I mean, take Larry Bird, take Bill Walton, ask them if they would have liked to have had load management kind of science and information. And I'm sure they'd say, heck yeah, like if that's going to give me a few more years of my career. So it's hard, but you have to remember, I mean, it's in the Mavs' best interest to keep him healthy. And so they're doing this to try and keep him healthy. The data is mixed. You'll find mixed research on, well, one team thinks this is the right way to do it. Another team thinks this is the right way to do it. They all sort of have their own little unique way they look at the data, their own little way they look at kind of what they think needs to be monitored. And that's their decision. At the end of the day, as hard as it is, we kind of have to trust that they feel like they're doing the best thing they can. And, they've got experience, a guy like Dirk, who they were able to manage, I would say, pretty well. I mean, he had a fairly long career. And so they've got a track record of understanding what they're doing with these players. But nonetheless, I understand the frustration, because it's hard to accept, well, they're resting. Why do they need to rest? They're a professional athlete. And they're resting so that they don't have to rest at the end of the season and in the playoffs.
Is there something about back-to-backs? Like, what is it about the strain of that specific thing? And Carlisle has specifically mentioned a lot about the travel, right? They travel more often in this season because, they weren't supposed to travel because they were supposed to change the schedule up, but they're having to travel and be in one place one night and another place another night, and then they're getting in a little bit later than they normally would because the schedule is so condensed. What is it about this condensed schedule, and specifically back-to-backs, that caused the Mavericks to rest some of these guys more often?
Well, I think the big thing with the back-to-backs is the limited recovery time. So whenever you exert a load onto your body, whether it's football, basketball, me trying to run 30 minutes on the treadmill, whatever, you need to give your body adequate time to recover. For me, that might mean I can't go run 30 minutes the next day. I need a day off. And so that back-to-back piece basically gives your body less time to optimally recover. If you string too many of those suboptimal recovery days together, then you're going to be predisposing yourself to getting hurt. And so I think that's the biggest thing with the back-to-backs, is looking more so at the recovery side of things and making sure that guys have adequate time to recover, recuperate from the damage they've done to their body the night before, and then be healthy for the next game. I think when you look at the travel, we think load and we think about minutes. We think about, miles guys running the court. We think about time. But we forget that load also implies the stresses that you deal with. It implies how you are sleeping, the anxiety, the stressors that come with travel, that come with being a professional athlete. And all of those things are loads that the team is measuring and managing. I mean, a lot of these teams are doing questionnaires with their guys that say, hey, what's your stress level today? How are you feeling? Are you feeling burnt out? Are you feeling fatigued? Are you feeling tired? How's your sleep? And so the more you try to condense that travel, the more guys are going from one city to another, you raise the opportunity for that kind of stress component of load to go up. And so it's just another sort of variable in this whole big confusing formula of load management that does definitely make this harder. I think guys said it when they were in the bubble. It was great because they weren't traveling same place every day. It was easier to recover. They didn't have that additional stress. And so I think that's a big part of it too.